Hey everyone, welcome to From ROI to ROE, the true value of return on engagement. This is part 2, and this is actually show 2 of a 4-part mini-series where I have rallied together 4 engagement experts who are all sharing their insights and wisdom about why coaches, consultants, and solopreneurs need to be more focused on building relationships and authentic connections than on building their lists. I'm your host, Lisa Ingalls. I'm an evolutionary entrepreneur. I'm a consultant and a mentor, and I work with people who are waking up and changing the world through my programs and services. This particular series is sponsored by Hangout Strategies for Visionary Leaders, a mentorship program that teaches change makers how to cultivate, connect, and communicate their message to a global audience and make a meaningful impact across the planet through the technology of Hangouts. You can learn more about that by going to this link that's actually below my video here, the bit.ly link, bit.ly/Hangout Hero. So today our engagement expert is Stephan Hovnanian. Hovnanian. I always say your name wrong, last name. Sorry about that, Stephan. So anyways, he is the guy who wrote the book, or more than one book, on Google Plus engagement, and I'll be bringing him on in just a moment. But first I want to recap what's happened so far in this series. So the series began yesterday with Andy Lyons, and she and I kicked off this series by busting 3 myths about what authentic engagement really is. And it all comes down to this: authentic engagement requires an investment in your time, because it's all about building relationships, and building those relationships takes time. I think we all know that. But how do we build those relationships? We do that through conversations, right? One at a time conversations. These conversations can be through Hangouts like this or through video, but it can also be done through email. It can be done through commenting, and there's lots of ways that you can engage and be involved in authentic conversations. But the point is that return on engagement is a strategy, and it's a long-term strategy that will have really great payoffs in the end. So if you missed yesterday's show, please be sure to watch that replay. So what I want to do first is tell you about how today's guest fits into this series. Besides being an engagement expert, I actually have my own story of how I met Stephan, and I think it's really the pinnacle or the epitome of what it means to be engaged, to have an engagement strategy. So when I first came into Google+, I right away found Stephan, loved his posts and articles, and I just started commenting on his posts, and he always engaged back with me. He always commented back, and so that was where it really began. And then what happened was I said something on a comment somewhere. He's like, "Oh, do you need help? Why don't you sign up for a help out with me?" I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I know these help out things." So I signed up for a help out, met him for 15 minutes. We had a great conversation. He gave me a few tips, and that was that, actually. And we kept going back and forth on the comments over the course of several months, and it was actually a full year later that I commented again on one of his posts, and he's like, "It sounds like you need help. Why don't we connect?" And I'm like, "Okay." And so we did a video chat, and I hired him because I had created this relationship with him. I worked with him for 3 months on something that we'll be talking about today, which is repurposing my engagement, because I really feel he's amazing at doing that. But the point being of this story is that it took a full year for Stephan to acquire me as a client, but it felt really natural. It felt great. I don't know how to explain it, but it was to me the epitome of what return on engagement is. And so here I am with Stephan today, and I'm just going to say a couple of other things about him before I bring him in and onto the show. Just the formal stuff. Stephan is the owner of Chovy Websites, which is a web strategy company based outside of Boston. He spent his career helping companies to overcome the challenges of maintaining their online presence effectively, and he solves small business marketing challenges by developing strategies that are unique to them, and I can definitely testify that that is very true because that's what he did for me. So, welcome, Stephan.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Lisa. And you're right. Thank you. Thanks for filling in the blank, too, because I'm sitting here going, I know we did a help out, and I know we did, and then I know we talked like you hired, and then, well, no, I remember that, the reaching out to you, but I forgot that we had that. I'm like, we had this really long conversation that was just so phenomenal. But I couldn't remember what it was, so that's what it was. Thanks for filling in the blank. Great to be here.
Yeah. So, okay, so there's two general areas that we're going to cover in today's Hangout. One being using Google+. A lot of people here are coaches, consultants, solopreneurs, and might be using Facebook and LinkedIn, and there's all types of platforms out there, but Google+ is a unique platform in terms of its ability to foster and nurture the engagement process. So I want to talk about that because you are the guy that's written the book on that. And then the other thing that I want to maybe focus even a little bit more time on is this idea about repurposing our engagement. Like, how do you do that, number one, because you've helped me to do that really well, and can you really repurpose engagement in an authentic way? So does that sound good? We'll sort of hit those two big bullet points for today.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. I'm super excited about the second one, too.
Okay, awesome. So let's hop into the first part of using Google Plus as part of an engagement strategy. There are quite a few, even in the past year and a half of me being in Google Plus, I've seen a lot more coaches, consultants, solopreneurs. It felt like when I first came in here, a lot of marketing people and bloggers and photographers. But it's definitely, I've seen a lot of the solopreneurs filter in here. Not really using Google Plus. A lot of them aren't using it in the way that I've learned from you as an engagement strategy. Not so much. So let's look at number one, why we should be using as solopreneurs Google Plus as part of our engagement strategy. We'll just start there.
Yeah, sure. I think the biggest use case for a solopreneur, coach, consultant, people whose mind is the commodity, if you will, and whose expertise is the commodity and the thing that they sell, that G Plus lends itself really well to that because it's open. It allows you to search. It allows you to have connect and have conversations with everybody, and without having to connect with them, send a friend request or make some or have some email address or something of theirs, so that you can really just wander around and find conversations about anything that you can contribute to and participate. And I think it's phenomenal that way. And so what I've always looked at it for, especially for again this group, collaboration, education, like learning, networking, just really it's the sales part, the marketing part, kind of like proof is in the pudding, what Lisa just described our journey together. That's going to take time. But then again, that takes time in real life. It takes time to build up trust on a one-on-one basis and get to know somebody. So, why should it be any different on a social network? I mean, we're all people. And if anything, G Plus as a platform has been built really to connect people together and really emphasize that relationship element. So, you're, again, collaboration, learning, and networking. You have a lot of opportunities, and honestly, if you have like a vibrant Facebook group, right? One great way to use Google Plus is to connect with new people and learn, and seek out all the the high-level experts that are talking about things that your customers have no clue about, nor would they, but that's not their job to know it. Their job's to trust you to know it. So you can learn, again, you can learn like about the latest search engine optimization strategies or the latest developments in I don't know, in AI or whatever it is, right? And then you could take that and sort of distill it and bring it over to your Facebook group or your LinkedIn group. And you become more trustworthy, you become more valuable to your existing community that way. And that's how you can use Google+. So, if you may find, all right, well, I have an established audience somewhere and I don't want to neglect them. You don't have to. You can use it for a different purpose. And I think that's just, that combines two things, right? That combines combines networking, because you're connecting with these thought leaders, if you will, and the people who are sort of leading the charge and on the leading edge of science and all these other things. And then you're also you're doing so you're learning and you're networking with them, and then you're bringing that over to your existing community. The community could also be on Google+, but I just I wanted to bring that up as an example because I don't want people to feel like they have to neglect anybody that they've already started to connect with on other platforms, and also again, just demonstrate the value there. Because the other neat thing is that every link that you find on Google+, you could copy that link and you can share it into Facebook or Google or Twitter or wherever. You could say, or even email. You could say, hey, there's a great article, a great discussion going on about the future of X. You guys should hop in on there. And that's another piece of it too, is that we can have these long, in-depth discussions. We can convey a little bit more emotion because of the fact we can put bold and italics. We could add a little bit of nuance in our text. It's a little harder to do in Facebook. Like if you want emphasis, you have to do all caps, which on the internet is screaming, so that doesn't really work, right? So it's kind of hard to have those conversations where you can convey that that emotion and that little extra nuance when you're having a conversation with someone. So yeah, it just lends itself really well to all those things.
And the posts in Google Plus are really like micro blogs, because you can. I think that, is there a limit on the number of words you can have? It feels like I've written really long posts before.
I don't know. I think it's probably something like 100,000. If you did that much,
it's a lot.
You should save it and make it into an ebook.
Right. And the other thing that I've noticed about Google Plus is that interesting for my niche in the industry, this experts industry, is that because more of those people are over in Facebook and LinkedIn right now, it's been easier to establish myself as an expert here. And then it was really interesting, the sort of spiral outward. What happened is I established myself as an expert here in what I do, and then all my colleagues started taking notice. It was really weird. I'm like, how is that happening? Like, I've been trying this for so long, and so that was one of the things that I noticed.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I've seen the same kind of thing. Eventually, if you talk about something enough, people are going to start to pay attention, and whether they adopt it is up to them. They need to find the utility to spend for themselves, to spend the time. They may not see a need to, for their own business or time management or whatever, but they know who to rely on. So you become that liaison, if you will. Right.
So, just really quickly, there's a lot of aspects of Google Plus. What would you say are, and I think that there's some pieces of Google Plus that are probably more beneficial for coaches, consultants, and solopreneurs. We've talked about posts. What else? What other areas would you suggest that coaches, consultants, solopreneurs should be focusing their engagement efforts in when it comes to Google Plus?
Yeah, sure. I think there's really, I would say, 3 key features. There's communities, there's circles, and there's Hangouts on Air, which we're doing right now. The Hangouts on Air part's kind of easy. It's easy and in depth and complex. And I know you're having David Amerland on at the end of the series, so I know he's going to get into much more detail about especially the humanization and the relationship building. But from a content perspective, because I think I'll talk about that. I'm steal it from him anyway. So
Go for it.
So from a content perspective, we're creating a YouTube video. Not only are we creating a YouTube video for posterity, we're having a live one right now. So if we promote that and we have an audience who can come watch live, we can interact with them, we can build relationships. It's also unscripted in a way, I mean, even if we have some guides, we have some ideas Lisa and I wanted to talk about, but for the most part, there's no editing. There's no, I drop an F-bomb, we got to fix that, right? So you do have to be a little bit careful. But at the same time, it's very raw, it's very real. And that's really awesome. And again, I don't want to steal too much of David's thunder, but we have, because I know he loves talking about that. But we have a YouTube video. Now, all the content that we talk about in that YouTube video can become more information for you. The response from people who are watching the video, whether it's live or afterwards, becomes just information for you. It's extremely rich, extremely rich. And again, you can see the enthusiasm in my face. You can hear it in my voice, way more so than if you were to read it in a blog post or even listen to it in a podcast. So having this for a coach and a consultant, again, where you are what you sell, your expertise, your enthusiasm, your passion, it's super important, I think, to get involved in Hangouts on Air and become part of this and put yourself out there for people to connect with you, right? And they can do that. And I had also mentioned communities and circles. So circles are just sort of an organization component for you. And it allows you to you can get into engagement strategies where you start to funnel people through, turn them from prospects to leads to closing them, and then they turn into clients, and you put them into your Google Contacts because you can do that. You can just move people right from your circles into contacts. Now they're on your phone, and they're in your Gmail. So it's again very fluid, and you could do that. You could use circles for that. You could also use circles to limit the visibility of certain posts. So if you wanted to get feedback from certain people, you could reach out to them and reach out to them privately. So that's there's a lot of control and a lot of opportunity, I think, using circles. And also, it doesn't always have to be for broadcasting. You could put people that you want to learn from into a circle, and then go to that circle, go to the stream of that circle, all of the posts that are from those people, and then you could read all of those posts. Nice little time management component to it too. So there's a lot that can be done. Again, going back to that collaboration, learning, networking thing, and you can use circles for that. The other part, communities, is sort of a public version of circles. It's there's a community for really everything. There's so many of them out there. Use them for learning, use them for prospecting. Just be very mindful of the etiquette of them and the community guidelines. Look at those more like a networking event, like a chamber event. You don't walk into those, stand up on the table and start waving your idea in front of everybody. No, you get to know them. You build great rapport with people in comments, asking follow-up questions when and lending your expertise. So a well-moderated community can be a phenomenal place to build legit street cred. So, or again, there's some great communities that aren't so well-moderated, but they're great sources of information, almost like a circle. So, there's one I still belong to that's it's for social media. Nobody ever engages in it, but there's a lot of great articles from around the web that just get dumped in there. So once in a while, I'll go in and do a little search and say, oh, cool, I like that one, that one, that one. I open them up in different tabs, and then I can read them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna my comment tracker is not pulling up these comments, but Pamela Zeman has a question for you. This should be a quick one, and then we're going to move on to our repurposing engagement. She asks, how do you move people from circles to contacts?
Yeah, so it is a great question. In your well, there's a really simple way to do it, which would be you go to that person's About tab, and then if you scroll to the bottom, then there's a section at the bottom that says this extra information about so-and-so, and it says this is only available to you. If you put a note in there, or if you add something in that section, that actually copies them over to your contacts. It's a little known secret. And now, because that note is actually part of Google Contacts. So the other way to do it,
oh, you're frozen there. Looks like you're frozen, Stephan. I'm going to see really quick. All right, you guys, looks like Stephan froze up a little bit there. So we're going to keep going here. I'm going to see if he unfreezes. We are going to be talking about the, oh, I see a little note from him. Yes, he froze. Here he's coming back in. Okay, here he is. Yes, you froze.
I did freeze.
Kind of cold over there in Boston. It took into your internet.
I guess so, huh?
Yeah. So I think you were just saying the last second piece of adding the contacts, or you were just finishing that up. You had almost finished there.
Oh, good. All right. Well, there we go. I had to unplug my mic. So I would say, where was I? Well, you go to Gmail, and then after you're done Gmail, you go over to contacts, and then from contacts you can actually look at the circles, and then you can just drag people in. So there's a whole section down the left that says My Circles, and then you just find those people, and you can actually drag them into your contacts, different groups, and things like that. So it's actually pretty simple.
Cool. Awesome. So hopefully that answers your question, Pamela, on how you move people from circles into contacts. And tons of great information here. One of the things that we said we were going to talk about, this is what we're going to go into now, is repurposing your engagement. And there's a couple of things about this that I think that Stephan is so fantastic at. If you haven't already picked it up from everything he's been saying, he just is brilliant in all the little ins and outs and what you can do. But what he helped me on specifically was this thing of repurposing engagement. How do you do that, and can you do it really in an authentic way? I think that you can, and we're going to go into that discussion right now. And so why don't we, I'm just going to sort of hand it over to you, Stephan, and this idea of repurposing your engagement. Why is it important? How do you do it? Can you really be authentically engaged in repurposing?
Yeah, I think you can. First, just want to double check. You can hear me, right?
Yep, you're good.
So I think you can. And so first off, what do we mean by repurposing engagement? It's taking things like the comments, like the conversations you're having, especially the public ones. Obviously, if you're going to have private conversations with people, you don't want to bring those out in the public light, but you could be talking about certain things, even privately with clients, or the same topics show up in conversation. All of that engagement, all of those conversations, those topics, and they could turn into larger pieces of work. They could turn into a blog post. They could turn into a hangout. You could say, hey, let's jump on let's jump on this topic. We're going to talk about it, and let's talk about it live. It could turn into a webinar. And so it's this idea of it's kind of like social listening. This has been around for a while, but Google Plus is because of because of what we can do and have such phenomenal conversations with each other. This is one of those opportunities that it's very rich, it's very deep, and I think there's a lot of it that we can get from around the web. So that's what I mean by repurposing engagement. It's again it's taking the conversations that are going on and looking for ways to turn them into different bodies of work. How do you do it, or what kinds of forms are they, and how do you do it authentically? I would say, let's just, first off, let's just take this idea of a hangout. We could take quotes, great little nuggets of information from the we're commenting, and turn them into quote graphics and share them out. From a content marketing perspective, that's awesome, because it's not the same thumbnail all the time. Here's another another piece of micro content, as my friend Denise Wakeman calls it, about that ties into this conversation we had. So we're going to call attention to this quote from a live viewer, and we're going to link you back to the full discussion. That does a bunch of different things. For one, it builds a stronger bridge between you and that person, right? So you and the person you gave a shout out, they love it. They feel appreciative of it. You went through the trouble to create.
a graphic out of something that they said. They took the time to watch live and leave a comment, or even if it wasn't live, they took the time, to get involved and pay attention and share their thoughts. So, you took that and you turned it into something, right? So there's that exchange, and I think that's very authentic. I mean, you don't have to do that. You could just continue to promote your own stuff. But by looping other people into it, you're giving them a bigger sense of ownership to that piece of content or that event. And I think there's a ton of value to that, for building your tribe even more, building stronger connections with people. And what else happens is your network gets extended. So, again, you have an opportunity to maybe bring somebody in, or talk about, something somebody says, and then from there, they share it out to their own network, as a thank you. And I'm not saying this happens all the time, but it's possible. And so if that happens, if now you position something, you position this, this in a way where they can go out and say, hey, I really appreciated what Lisa did here. This is, how cool is this? We had a great conversation. You guys should watch it. And next thing you know, that person, is helping introduce you to their audience. And I think that's, there's a tremendous amount of value that we get out of that too. So those are just a couple of ideas.
I think, there's one of the things I was going to point to examples of what I've done based on what you've said, because I did that one where I noticed that actually it was a post that I wrote was getting so many comments on it that I decided, wow, this is actually a touchy conversation, or this is a touchy topic. Maybe we should do a hangout on this topic. And I did, in order to go from a post and actually take that conversation even deeper by having a hangout on it. And it was perfect. It was great because people loved that conversation and wanted to go deeper into that topic. So that's to point to your idea of looking for comments and where the conversation's happening and what are they really passionate about? What do they really want to engage with further and have deeper conversations about? So that was one thing I did, and I love that the piece about the quotes, because I've seen it done before, and I've had my own experience of being on shows and people quoting me and putting up the little quote graphics, and you're like, oh, I got quoted. It sort of makes you feel good. On the flip side of it, you're not only doing, like you said, that your guest a favor and promoting them, but it has that feedback effect to you. There's the reciprocal effect, the give and receive effect of it, of they're going to share it out with they may share it out, which I think is another engagement principle, like no expectations, right, of what's going to happen or what people should or shouldn't do. I think that's a big piece of the engagement principle.
Yeah, that would be fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also looking at Kat has posted. I'm going to just read this. I don't know if it's a question, but I'm going to just read what she posted here. She says, I'm working with a corporate agency clients who want to test a meeting on Hangouts. I need to create my own how to join a Hangout on air. I'm trying to figure out the best way to make it simple and professional. Lots of rumors and concerns that Hangouts will be poor quality or unprofessional, and we want to get corporate sponsors into Hangouts for upcoming programs. I need to get people, okay, so she's sort of giving what she's doing with her Hangouts. She wants to get people feeling comfortable in Hangouts. And actually, Kat will be talking more about that on Monday with David Amerland, but I don't know if you have any quick little things on that comment.
Well, there was my computer that froze, so don't let the fact that I froze up. It's an old computer, so don't let it be a deterrent. No, I think Hangouts use WebRTC, which is a phenomenal technology that runs in the browser. It's becoming better every day, and I think there's a lot of value that you can get. Plus, it's super easy, and I think I know a lot of Skype users that I'll encourage them to do a Hangout, and then when we do it, they're like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. Oh, yeah, I mean, I would definitely look into it.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind though when it comes to the sponsorship part, you are creating YouTube videos. So, just be aware of be cognizant of what YouTube's guidelines are for things like sponsorship. Because I know that in fact, I know they just recently, I don't know, changed them or started to reinforce them. So that's all I would say about it. But, I think there's a ton of value in these things.
Excellent. So one of the things one other piece I want to go back to on repurposing is time stamping. What's your take on time stamping? How is time stamping maybe a great way to create additional engagement? And that's a way of repurposing your Hangout on Air shows.
Yeah, it is. So timestamping, just so everybody understands, in your YouTube description, okay, you can actually put a minute, second, right? So, 0 or 3:25, and it turns into a link. So when you do that, and somebody clicks on it, it'll skip to that section of the YouTube video. When you share a YouTube video on Google+, you can do the same thing. And on the Google Plus post, when the video plays inside, if people can click on those timestamps and actually see, and it'll skip right to that video. I mean, all right, so that's what it is. Here's my take on it. I think if you have a well-structured discussion, and it doesn't have to be scripted, but just well-structured, so you're not all over the place. Timestamps are phenomenal because they're great ways for you to create a little table of contents of the key points that you had talked about in a 45-minute, 45-minute, hour-long discussion. Now, not everybody's going to start from the first second and watch the whole thing. So being able to give them some highlights is a great way with this table of contents format. I wouldn't go overkill personally. I think somewhere between 5 and 8 tops. And again, just pick the key things. I've seen some really classy things where people will go through the discussion, they'll timestamp again, the highlights of the discussion or the main topics that they talked about, and then they'll come up with a quote of the day. So if there was a live quote from one of the audience members, they'll timestamp that at the bottom, which is really cool. I think it's real classy. And then another one could be an extra thought or some other type of shout out, if you will, but it's not part of the chronological recap, if you will, of the video. I think that's pretty cool. And also, there's another element to it too. You could share the video by itself at that timestamp for the sole purpose of the shout out for that person.
So when you say share the video itself at that timestamp, share the whole video, or are you saying edit the video and just share that little 1 minute piece?
Share the whole video at 29 minutes and 15 seconds. So you share the video then, and then or you share the whole video and then you say. And then in your description, you say, at 29:15, we had, one of the best comments I've ever heard in my life about whatever, and from this person. And then you say what the comment was, and then, this way the people can click on it and watch the whole thing. They're a little that's when you get a little tricky and you start to see what works and what people respond to.
Right. That's cool. I never thought of that. That's really cool. I think in this whole piece of the repurposing your engagement is to know what to do, not what to do when, but what's going to work for you and what can you manage to do, given that most of us are solopreneurs and don't have a huge staff working for us. We're assuming that you're going to have to be doing this stuff yourself. So I've found that one of the keys in repurposing my engagement is to commit to doing one thing, not all of the things that Stephan those are all sort of like a menu, a platter of ideas for you, and pick one and be committed to that one thing and do it for a month or 2 months or whatever, and maybe switch some of your repurposing strategies. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Stephan?
I agree. I would take a look at well, for me, anything you're doing, you should have a why.
Yes.
Why am I doing this? And I think the other part to it is sometimes you're going to have, let's say your why for creating a quote graphic out of somebody's comment is to encourage them to connect, to share it on LinkedIn to their network. Okay, you're going to do that in a different way. You're going to approach that in a different way than you would sharing, creating a small piece, again, a piece of micro content that repurposes your Hangout or your engagement, and sharing it on Google Plus. Right? So the whole idea is to think of the different things that you have access to, your menu, like Lisa said, and then think of what you'll get out of each one of them. And when you find a good match, then you say, okay, when I see an opportunity to do this, this is how I'm going to handle it. And then maybe what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to commit to one or two of these, each time, and then that's it. So you're not like totally overwhelmed, but you're also not trying to fit square pegs into round holes. You're not saying, oh, okay, I'm going to focus on quote graphics this month, and then all of a sudden you realize I have none, and you've kind of missed the mark,
Yeah, yeah, totally. No, that's great.
It helps. I'm sorry. It helps to really just kind of plan all that out, because a lot of it, again, comes down to what your business goals are. I mean,
right.
you might not go down the payoff, even though it might be easy and look cool and fun and get you a lot of, social signals or whatever, but it might be totally meaningless for your business. And so it doesn't make sense to do it.
Right. That's what we were talking about yesterday, right? Like, have a purpose. Always be, Andy's really great at this, you're really great at this, is always be on purpose with your communication. If you're going to communicate about something, if you're going to engage about something, have a purpose. And if you're going to share something, it's great to share about your dog or your vacation or whatever, but still weave it into the purpose of the bigger purpose of what it is that you're trying to do, so that people really are connecting with you and engaging with you.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So we do have, it's getting close to end time here, and I want to pull up some questions that are coming up for you, so we'll just sort of go through them. If you might be seeing them too, Stephan, but why don't we go with Kat is asking, how would you explain the benefit of producing a program in Hangout versus a studio-produced video? Any thoughts on that?
I think the two biggest things for that are just, it's a heck of a lot less expensive, and it's a lot more real. Because again, it's unscripted, and there's less editing, and the post-production is none. You do it, you hit stop broadcast, and in about half hour it's up on YouTube. So there's always a good purpose. There's always time for those things. There's a time and a place for that. But I think a Hangout on air is it's a neat little vehicle to be able to come out from behind the brand a little, come out from behind that studio look.
Mm-hmm.
And if that makes sense, do it.
I think I like it. I like it. I like the unstudioified look, personally. So I'm going to move on. Another question. Pamela, it's sort of a question slash comment, says, wow, a timestamp adds a new link. I thought it was just helping people save time. Is that right? Does a timestamp actually add a new link? Wasn't clear on that. Is that what you're saying?
Does it add a new link? It's like a link within your post. So it's all one big post, and then and then you can click around through it. So I'm not sure. Just I'm sure there's a whole bunch of them out there. Just go see how it works.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll talk one of this afterwards.
And Dave Williams has a comment. He's saying, commenting back to Kat, saying, yes, sometimes using the word Hangouts makes corporate clients uncomfortable. I call my meetings a live event or a video webcast. That's a good idea, Dave, instead of Hangouts. I'm curious what you call them, Stephan. Do you say Hangouts, or do you say live events, or what do you say?
Called it web shows, interactive web series, live event, live online events. You could call it web TV. I originally started using webcast because if you think about what it is too, what if the name changes, right? I mean, not that I don't know that it will, But if yeah, calling something what it is, I think, this is a call. You can even use call. I know, like when I've talked to people who are really heavy into the webinar thing, I use call because like they use that term. They're like, oh yeah, whoever's on the call today, even though we're all not on the phone, we're all talking to each other in the video. But that's the phrase they use. So I mean, yeah, you don't have to use Hangouts to really get the point across. I think a lot of those other alternatives are phenomenal.
Well, it's interesting because that makes me think of everybody calls tissues like facial tissues, blow your nose, Kleenex, or go Xerox your, and those are all just the brand names. It's like Hangouts is the brand name of the thing that we use, the technology that we use, but really what is a Hangout? A Hangout is a live broadcasted video webcast. So I love all of those. I love that. I think I'm going to start doing that. That's just, yeah, I think that's a good one.
I've even used webinar.
Webinar. I don't like webinar because I feel, okay, in my industry, webinar to me, has a connotation with a presentation that's not going to be face-to-face, that's not going to have the discussion. It's going to be something like that's going to be a slideshow. That's how I see webinar, but that's in my industry, so I stay away from webinar actually. But I think, true. Yeah. So, anyways, we're going to wrap up the show here. We covered a broad span of information, but I want to thank you, Stephan, for coming on to the show, being a part of this series, and we're definitely going to be repurposing this engagement out there based on everything that I've learned from you and some of the tips that you've given today. Do you have any final parting words of wisdom or anything else you'd like to share with people in addition to how people can get in touch with you?
No, thank you again also for having me. I appreciate it. I hope we gave you guys a bunch of great ideas to run with. And I mean, I would say, like Lisa said before, the biggest challenge for this is figuring out what's going to make sense for you with your time constraints and whatnot. Spend a little time ahead up in the beginning. I think that makes a lot of sense. Just think through how it would all work. Think through the different pieces of the puzzle. What's available to you. And what happens is you're going to start training yourself to see, oh, I have this opportunity in a comment and discussion thread here on Google+. This is what I can do with that. And then you'll also make a value judgment, like, does it make sense for my business or not? I mean, or maybe it's something I save for later. So the whole idea, I think, is really to start thinking about what's possible and understanding how each one of them from there, all that strategic stuff, eventually it'll just start, I'm telling you because I'm going through this right now, it pays off in droves. It's amazing how much great information and content and opportunity comes your way when you start to see all the little things that you can pull from. It's amazing.
Yeah, wonderful. And okay, let people know how they can get a hold of you. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So StephanHov.com, which was on my lower third before I switched to my phone, is where you can pretty much get a hold of me. You can see all the different things I have going on. And obviously here on Google+, I love to interact with people, so say hi, plus mention me somewhere, and I'll be happy to help you however I can. Can I give a cheap plug?
Oh, yeah.
Please?
Go for it.
No, just only because it plays into the repurposed element of things that we were talking about today. So I'm actually doing an email marketing series, a web series, and it's been 4 Hangouts, December, January, February, and then the next one's in a couple of weeks. So and the only reason I say that is because it's really it's sort of a case study and example, which is I think also what Lisa's going to do too. So pay attention to her and see how what's available and what's possible here. But I just wanted to throw that one out there because we're talking about email design and and then after that's done, like I have a stockpile of ideas that I can just run with for months. So just based off of these 4 Hangouts, it's unbelievable.
Awesome. And Stephan, you're really a master at that, of kind up with ideas and repurposing, which, as I sort of pull this all together, is a great way to create scalability in your business through return on engagement. So Stephan really is a guy I highly recommend. Like I said, I worked with him for several months, and just a phenomenal guy to work with, especially around the repurposing strategy. Don't know if that's exactly what you want everybody to be coming to you for, Stephan, but I just put it out there. So
the stuff you and I did together was so much fun. I love that. It's a blast. So yeah, anybody who needs help with that, please let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're wrapping up the show. You guys maybe have seen the link that I already posted down in the comments. If you're here, you want to just hop in and say hi to Stephan and I for a few minutes. We have a few minutes left here in the green room. Won't be recorded or anything. You can say hi to us. And thank you all for showing up live. If you liked, I'll put in one more little plug for me, which is if you liked what we're doing in this show, I'm also going to be hosting another 4-part free training series at the end of this month, where you can learn how you can use Hangouts as part of your engagement strategy to cultivate, connect, communicate your message, all of those things to a global audience and make a meaningful impact on this planet. You can find out more about that just by going to the bit.ly link that's right below me, bit.ly/Hangout Hero. We are having our 3rd show tomorrow with Dustin Stout. That's going to be a really good show, and then we'll be having our 4th show on Monday with David Amerland. So please stay with us throughout the series, live, replay. We love you here. We love your comments. We'll be commenting back, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, guys.